If you want to watch anime like Mob Psycho 100, ReZero, and the upcoming new season of Attack on Titan, check it out over on Verve's Crunchyroll app built into Verve, so you don't have to even have Crunchyroll. Just get the combo pack, and that includes all the features within Verve, and it doesn't crash. This thing's only crashed on me once in years that I've used it. Check out Verve, try it out for free, vrv.co/geekdom. Try it for free now. So the 2019 Aladdin live-action Disney remake is in theaters right now, and it is a remake of the 1992 Aladdin film. And we're not talking about the modern Aladdin movie here on this video. We're going to be discussing the old-school Aladdin video, really a cinematic classic from the Disney Vault, a film that is a big part of the Disney Renaissance. And I want to talk about some of the underlying tones in the film that some of you guys may not have noticed, specifically the character of Jafar and how he may not have actually been as bad as we remembered. This was a topic that was recommended to me by the person who's on the line right now. He's known to be the YouTube business guru, but behind all that, he's a huge nerd. And we're going to talk about, was Aladdin really that good of a guy? Let's talk about it. Roberto Blake is here. What's up?
What's up, Geekdom? How's it going, man?
I'm happy to have you here. I expected this video to be about, how to grow your YouTube empire, but we're not talking about that today. Maybe in the future.
Yeah, no, we're having a good time here and everything. Thanks so much for having me. I love when I get to just nerd out with the community.
Yes, and you gave me this, and by the way, folks, check out Roberto Blake. I will leave a link to his channel down below in the description. Check him out for all of your business needs, as well as Photoshop tutorials, and there's a lot of stuff on your channel, so head over there, grown folk stuff. Create something awesome today.
Yep, 1,300 videos and counting.
Yep, I'm at 1,800 myself on one of my channels, so
Jesus,
it's hard work, man. Let's talk about Aladdin. So you laid out this really interesting scenario about how Jafar is actually not as bad as how we remembered. You have the floor. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about this.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of people I think have talked about this. I was talking about this for years before people were talking about it on the internet. But yeah, Jafar isn't exactly. I mean, let's think about what was so horrible or what was so bad. I'm not saying he's a good guy, but he's not so bad if you really think about it. I mean, why did Jafar want the lamp? Jafar wanted to potentially rule Agrabah, but he only really kind of needed to do that because Princess Jasmine was about to come into power. Remember Princess Jasmine, the woman who literally stole from a hardworking street vendor to feed orphans, which sounds really good until you think about that street vendor losing profits, and she money, so she doesn't even understand the basic economics of her own country that she's about to rule over.
Spoiled rich girl.
She's but gorgeous. So maybe, I don't know. Is that enough for her to get a pass? I don't know. I don't know. But in Aladdin's eyes, clearly, because that's what he does. He then goes and lies, to the street vendor, manipulates him, and in the meantime is distracting him so that Abu can do even more thievery from, again, this hardworking dude who's just going on about his business. He didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, he was gonna have her hand cut off and everything, but that was the law of the land. And again, as the ruler or potential ruler of the country, she should have known that. Maybe
absolutely, without question.
Maybe reform the laws so there's not so harsh, so that people don't lose a hand when they're trying to feed themselves. I don't know.
Yeah, she's so oblivious to her own country's archaic mentality.
And again,
Agrabah is stuck in the past, man.
Yeah, and the poverty was a real issue, but at the same time,
then again, it is in the past. Let's not forget, it is in the past.
Poverty is an issue in every country at some point, for the most part, but she, as a ruler, would have had the ability to address it. And even in the sequels and in the Disney TV show, we see that there's still poor people in Agrabah. There are still massive poverty in Agrabah, and there's still harsh laws, even though they have a magical genie that is somewhat depowered, but still can clearly use magic. Can clearly
still create things of nothing.
Exactly. He can still transmute matter. He can still create. He can still do a lot of these things. It's just not on a cosmic level, but he is still Omega level. He's just not cosmic, so that's clear. The genie is essentially the greatest sorcerer on earth like Jafar was. Okay, so he clearly is still powerful, and that problem hasn't been addressed. Aladdin is now wealthy and clearly has like an allowance and some stuff, and he hasn't solved that problem, even though he knows what it's like to be poor.
He still dresses like a street rat. That's the thing about those funny Disney shows. You know, the TV show was canon after Return of Jafar. Like, Return of Jafar was like the intro to the show, like the lead-in, and then the
his stuff wasn't
was the finale.
His clothes weren't rags anymore. He wore the same style, but everything was tailored and fresh.
I know, but it's wacky. Like, you would think that it's wacky Disney logic. They're trying to keep the same design from the movie for familiarity purposes.
Of course.
Like that's why they didn't change the Power Rangers over, even though the Japanese Power Rangers changed. You know, that's what they're doing. But it's just funny.
Well, now they're changing Power Rangers all the time. But yeah.
Yeah. They started doing that in season 4. But it is funny though that he just is wearing the same kind of, you know, bootleg clothes, and he could be doing better. But you were saying that he's also that Jafar is also. It's more about he's a driven person than him actually being a prick. I mean, he was a prick. I mean, he is power hungry, but he's also not that terrible either. Like, I feel like there's worse Disney villains. Like
there are far worse Disney villains. Like, Ursula.
Cruella is pretty bad.
Ursula, Cruella, Maleficent, minus the current retcon on her.
No, please don't. Yeah.
Like, no, I actually like
Scar killed his own brother.
Yeah, I actually am fine with the Maleficent reboot, by the way. Like, that was actually pretty cool.
I hated it.
I liked it because I think it's more plausible that, like, a corrupt king, it makes a lot more sense to me than the level of petty that they like, because that seemed like a lot of effort. You know what I'm saying? Like that just to kind of make more sense. Not to mention I like the action better, but that's me. Like,
I couldn't stand it.
And I'm also a big Angelina Jolie fan.
Right.
For obvious reasons, but like because she's a badass, right? But like especially Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but I digress. But like Jafar is not that bad for a Machiavellian villain, because think about what his ambitions are, and think about the fact that minus some of the poverty issues and so on and so forth, Agrabah still was pretty decent, minus like the poverty for the time that we're talking about, and he was clearly running the show because the Sultan was a twit. The Sultan was a twit, and we actually find out in the Disney series that he'd even made some kind of like deal with the devil thing, when Jasmine was a baby, and that's a problem. So like he's incompetent. The Sultan's incompetent. Jafar's
he's a goofball.
Yeah, he's a goofball. He's not a bad guy. The Sultan's not a bad guy, but he hasn't got a clue. And and so Jafar is running the royal guard. Jafar is like head of security. Jafar is the royal vizier. He is getting things done. Like, he's a real leader. If you have think about it. If you had to rely and trust somebody to look out for the team, so to speak, and to lead the team either into battle or to protect the company, do you want the Sultan running it or do you want Jafar running it?
Right. Yeah, the Sultan's so incompetent. At least Jafar might be a prick, but at least he has drive.
And he's competent.
He has a goal.
And he's competent. He's smart. He found the hidden scarabs. He found the Cave of Wonders. He clearly learned about alchemy and mind control and hypnosis. He's a genius. He's a smart, intelligent, driven dude. And the reason that he might be such a prick is because think about how smart he is, and he has to bend the knee to this twit, this like idiot. Like, it's not like, that's not fun. No one wants to work for a boss that's dumber than you.
But at the same time, though, I mean, you're right, but at the same time, he did do some prickish things at the end of the film when he wished to become a genie. Yeah, it cost him something, but now he exposed himself as having a real god complex, because the genie is essentially a demigod in the world of Aladdin.
Yes.
Like you said, with the cosmic abilities, and he got greedy, and he was
hubris.
Going to hurt them. So, yeah, hubris. Yeah. But I think he still wound up being a real prick. I feel like in Return of Jafar, he might have been worse, though. I think in that film, he was vindictive.
That was a revenge plot, so of course it was a revenge plot. But like condemning me to prison for 10,000 years, that justifies revenge. But here's the thing with Jafar in the film. Jafar, his original, he was like kind of stuck. Like when like Jasmine's like, oh well, one day I'll be sultaness and I'll have the power to get rid of you. So job security was an issue for him. And then even then, his thing was, oh, wow, she'll have us exiled or beheaded. So now his butt's on the line. And his immediate go-to was not to connive a murder plot. His immediate go-to was not to do that. That was Iago's plan. Plan. And Iago, again, is a counterpart to Iago from Othello, the guy who connived and engineered, if you're familiar with Othello from Shakespeare. He connived and deceived his friend and set him on a paranoid path to thinking that everybody was against him, because in Iago's mind, everybody was stupid, everyone was stupider than him, and he'd been overlooked. But in reality, everybody liked Iago. So, like, you have to understand that that's the character that they put the parrot in that role of a real Machiavellian mastermind and villain, even though he was the stooge and the sidekick.
And it was Gilbert Gottfried.
It was Gilbert freaking Gottfried. But again, he was the one who said, oh, what if you were the chump husband? What if you were the Sultan Jafar? Jafar hadn't even thought of that. For such an evil mastermind, he hadn't even concocted an exit strategy and a plan beyond, I get the land, I get unlimited wishes, I could say screw Agrabah, I could just be powerful, I could just be a sorcerer, I could just do anything, I could be rich. Like, his plan was, I get the lamp, and then I've got options. That was Jafar's plan. I have the lamp, I have options. With options being like limited now with like, oh, I'm on a ticking clock. She gets married, I'm done. Iago's like, well, wait, let's move ahead. Like, you become the Sultan, and then you push, the little woman and your father-in-law over a cliff. Bye-bye. You rule Agrabah. We're safe. The end. And their whole thing was, how do we protect ourselves here? And the thing is, backed into a corner, threatened with exile or execution. Their answer was, I'm going to get them before they get me. That's not so unreasonable. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's not an unreasonable conclusion to get to.
Right. I mean, he's just a really kind of like power-hungry dude who ends up literally losing his mind. I mean, hubris. He lost his freaking mind.
That hubris, but again, he's looking at exile at best after like 25 or some years of loyal service, being put out to pasture or being executed by a petty spoiled brat. Who's entitled because she's going to get the crown and because, your bloodline. She didn't earn any of it. Like, I'm not anti Princess Jasmine. I'm just saying that it's like, it's royalty, it's nobility, right? It wasn't something that was going to be earned. Even Aladdin was now going to be made royal and be made sultan because he married a princess. Not anything he earned on his own, and not even by his own bloodline or credentials. Just because, you married a princess, you're now in charge. We all follow you. We all follow you. Right. That's not really that good for the country. That's not really good for anybody, and it spits in the face of every hardworking person who earned their place.
Especially a street rat like Aladdin.
Jesus. Like Razul, like, you don't have to like Razul, and like, he did some shady stuff for Jafar as head of security and everything like that, but you have to understand that Razul and every one of the royal guards earned their place. They earned their job.
Absolutely did. But I mean, at the end of the day, he did have sinister motives, and he tried to hurt Jasmine. If one of my
I'm not down with
tries
that.
to hurt my daughter, you're out of here, buddy.
Yeah, no, I'm not down with that. I'm not justifying any of the actual legitimate terrible things Jafar did, but just remember, he didn't do any of those things up until then. All he'd done, really, as far as we know, in canon for 25 years, is run and protect Agrabah. He essentially kept Jasmine safe her whole life. And he kept the Sultan safe his entire part of that administration. And we find out from Iago in the series, in the cartoon, that like actually Jafar and Iago had actually kept Agrabah safe from some like magical threats back in the day. You had that one dragon, you had Mosenrath. They had kept like these other more powerful evils at bay for like 25 years. And again, the reward for that is what? We put you out to pasture, like Godspeed, thank you for your service, bye-bye, or behead you because we don't like you anymore. Like, that's not really, like, for somebody to get twisted, that's a really good motive for getting somebody twisted. You crap on your employees, you don't do right by them, you don't elevate them, you don't reward their hard work. You can't be that surprised that they betray you.
Right. No, I agree with that 100%. So, are there any other thoughts that you have, or should we go to the comment section? What do you think?
Well, like, here's my thing with Aladdin. Because, like, okay, like, because it's a character analysis is really where I'm coming at. Because, again, I'm not justifying Jafar. I'm just saying, like, let's look at this like adults now that we're adults. Aladdin was a strong, agile, like, healthy young man. Why didn't he have gainful employment?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought of that.
Like,
why did he get a job? basically.
Being a thief was a choice for him. If he's young and strong and good looking and talented, there's any number of things he could have done. He could have been a street performer and had people throw coins, because we saw that clearly that's something that happens. It is that like people are performers and tumblers and things like that. So that's not uncommon to Agrabah, circuses, all those things. So he didn't do that. That was a choice. Even when he got the lamp, he didn't wish for, yes, he couldn't have, I think like the genie said that he can't kill anybody, he can't make anyone fall in love. The genie didn't put a stipulation on world peace or an end to poverty.
No, but and definitely not poverty, because it's like the whole problem with Thanos. It's like when you have that much power, you should be able to fix poverty versus wiping people out.
Well, fixing poverty in Agrabah is a less than cosmic level feat, because like
that's what I'm saying.
Like the whole world is one thing, but a cosmic level feat of just fixing Agrabah is not that hard. Like it's less than cosmic. It's like it's not even requiring omega level power. Like power. Someone in the community should power scale the genie. Like that'd be fun.
Well, we gotta power scale him to other like is he more powerful than? I don't know. Is he more powerful than King Triton? See, I
let's go there.
Very powerful.
So let's go there. Both King Triton and Ursula, I believe to be demigods, because King Triton, I believe, is descended from Poseidon. Actually, yeah, he's the son of Poseidon. And in the original canon, Ursula and Triton were going to be like brother and sister. So when you look at levels of feats there, that puts him on par with. But above Hercules. That puts him on par with, but above Hercules, also because he has a magical object that is God tier. So he has a God tier object. He has a God tier object, and he's a demigod. So that puts him above Hercules in feats. And Hercules also was able to directly do combat with the Titans. So if we, that is really, really up there. And if we look at what Jafar did as a genie, and we assume that, well, genie has like more than 10,000 years of experience, even though if he has a good disposition, if you look what Jafar did, Jafar was capable of altering the elements, and he could transmute matter, shapeshift. So, I would say that Jafar and genie would be on par and or above the either the gods of Olympus in Hercules or the Titans in Hercules.
Right.
So
no, I agree with that. So
if that's the case and they're only bound by the rules of the genie, that's pretty hardcore. So it's hard to believe that again, Aladdin chose selfish wishes. Choosing to be a prince,
even with the girl.
Yeah, he's it's the same. He's essentially on that level, the same as Jafar. The choices he made were essentially the same. Look at Aladdin's character. He lied straight up to Jasmine's face with the intention of seducing and marrying her. So he straight up lied to a woman about his identity that he intended to marry. That's bad. He also was think about it. He also thought that she would be impressed with all that stuff, and he really was judgmental about what she would value and what she would care about.
Absolutely.
So
for sure. I mean, you kind of killed it with the gainful employment line. That's kind of the best point you made. Why does this guy have a job? Look at him jumping around.
He chose to steal from people, from their livelihood, from how they feed their family.
That being said, though, the Sega Genesis game is amazing.
Yes, it is. I played that as a kid. I loved it. Oh my god, so much. But the Cave of Wonders was still really hard. Cave of Wonders was the hardest level in the game.
Yeah. And when you're in the castle and you have to jump in those weird platforms I love that game.
Yeah, no, love it so much. And for the graphics for the time, it was really good for the time.
The movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the songs from the movie and everything.
Yeah, all of that. I love, I still no, you can still you can still make out to a whole new world. You could still do that. So that's timeless. That's now and forever, right?
Right.
And I still kind of could bop my head to Prince Ali. Prince Ali, fabulous.
What about the hip hop remix for the new movie?
I've got I have to hear the whole thing. I'd have to hear the whole thing, because
DJ Khaled.
I'll have to see how I feel. Like, because I might like with the system, I might feel differently. You know, like so with the whole base and the whole system, I might feel differently.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, Aladdin wasn't a perfect hero in the fact that again he was a thief, he was a liar. You know, he lied to his girl directly. He made selfish wishes. And look at how he treated his friends, even in the movie, of turning his back on, like, Carpet, Abu, even Genie. You know, he had to be brought around to make things right with them. And even with, Jafar, even with some of the horrible things he did, again, what he did was petty and it was hubris, but a lot of it was somebody wronged him first in some way or threatened him first. In Aladdin's case, that wasn't always true. He had a reputation with the guards for, like, thieving, and also then he would go further and kind of harass them or embarrass them a little bit, like, you know. So, like, I mean, there's not a lot of justification beyond the, oh, well, I'm poor, that makes it okay. Like, Aladdin chose to be a criminal. Jafar was not a good guy, per se, but his motivations for what he did are much more reasonable, I could argue, than just the, oh, well, I'm poor.
Right. No, I agree with that. A little bit. I would say slightly more, yeah.
Jasmine's entitled. The Sultan's incompetent.
Yeah. And Jafar is a driven guy, but he's an asshole. Nobody's good in this movie except Genie. Genie's the only
Iago's
good
the
person
worst.
in this movie.
Yeah, Genie's the only good person, and Iago's the worst.
Until he gets redeemed.
Right. But, like, until he's redeemed, Iago's the worst, which is why he's the only person to get a redemption arc.
Yeah, he is. He becomes... It's just not the same because Gilbert Gottfried's so good at playing a prick. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But think about it. Iago, like, was the one to go immediately cutthroat. Iago was the one to... then when he, like, dug them out of, like, the thing, he immediately, not even 5 minutes, and he betrays Jafar and immediately aligns himself with his former enemies for his, like, think about it. Like, that's next level. Like, man, like, you don't really care, do you? You don't care who you betray. Like, he just betrayed people over and over and over until he's redeemed. But, like, think about that. Iago's the real villain. Until he's not.
Yeah, he was the whispering in the ear guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's the real mastermind. He's the real villain, and that's even proven in Return of Jafar, because in the end, he's also the one to ultimately destroy Jafar. He, like, you know, when it's all said and done. Again, justifiably, Jafar had to go at that point. You know, like, I mean, Jafar was just, like, wrecking stuff. Like, I mean, and again, at that point, Jafar was clearly not a good guy. Like, but I would say that, like, Jafar was lawful evil. You know, Jafar was lawful evil in the beginning of the Aladdin saga, and then became maniacal evil by the end of it. Exactly so, right? It's like, so, because again, I can understand a dude saying, like, oh crap, I'm gonna get fired and killed. I got to do something. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And beyond that, I can see, man, if I could just get this lamp, I can fix my screwed up life. I mean, Aladdin even went with, man, like, I got this lamp, I can fix my screwed up life. Aladdin did the same thing. Jafar and Aladdin in many ways are just opposite ends of the same coin in some, yin yang like fashion, if you want to think of it that way. But here are the people who are the worst in this situation. Jasmine was born to all this power, privilege, and wealth and didn't appreciate it. The Sultan was rigid and held to tradition and couldn't see, like, his daughter's feelings until the very end. And so I would argue he was a bad father in that way, and at the same time, he's a bad ruler. The Sultan's a bad father and a bad ruler, even though he's a good guy. Being a good guy doesn't excuse those failings because it ultimately almost led his entire country to destruction and almost destroyed his entire family line. Being a good guy isn't good enough. Aladdin's a good guy, but Aladdin's also a willful criminal. And a liar. And a liar.
Yep.
Lied to Jasmine.
People don't want to hear it, but that's how it is. No, that's how it is.
I don't remember thinking that as a kid, but I look back at it as an adult, and I'm like, man, like everyone told him, tell her the truth, tell her the truth. Oh, but I'll lose the girl. It's like, and? Are you gonna lie to her for the rest of your life? You're about to marry her. You're gonna marry her under false. You manipulated her. Like then you gaslight her and make her think she's crazy for imagining that you're the boy from the market. I mean, that's really messed up, man.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? It's kind of, and we see that in real life all the time. So in a way, these Disney movies are more realistic than we even thought.
Yeah, it's creepy. You know, it's creepy.
It's crazy.
So when I think about this, it's like, I mean, even going back with King Triton, like we talked about King Triton crossing over with the Jafar thing. It's like he was like so angry and violent in that. Like it made me feel like, is he an abusive father? Like that was like. You know, like I remember being a kid and that scene with King Triton, when he started destroying all of Ariel's stuff, I was shook as a kid with that. Like he was like mad. I was like, I was leaning back like, oh wow, is he gonna
Right.
Like
no, I mean that's why I think that the King of Thieves movie kind of made Aladdin good again. That was the one that really made him a likable character. The last film in the saga.
It made him extremely sympathetic. He took responsibility. He's like, oh yeah, that's my dad though. What would you do, Jasmine? Yeah. And she was like, and even Jasmine, like I think they redeemed her because they made her like I love Princess Jasmine. I like what they did with her in the Disney series, but they had to do some work on her because the way they set her character up was not very good and not very likable, besides the fact that she was confident, she was strong, and she was very much, she would stand up for herself, but she also came off as spoiled.
Yes, for sure.
They're
imperfect characters, but that kind of makes them better characters.
It does. But the thing is, I was always disappointed in that because the thing is, I felt like I liked the changes they made in the Disney cartoon where they showed how smart she was, and that she wanted to better herself, because I felt like that makes sense for that character. That makes sense for that character. And then by the King of Thieves, they also showed her growth of just not being pissed with Aladdin, but hearing him out and then empathizing and saying, "Oh yeah, that's your dad." Like that, yeah, he's the King of Thieves, but he's also your dad. There's nothing I wouldn't do for my dad, and that showed us the empathy and not just the Aladdin, I love you, which would be reductive to her character, which I don't like when Disney does that, and it's just like, oh, someone's falling head over heels in love. That's not, and will justify anything. That's not realistic. Like the fact that she was able to.
I mean, it's Disney.
Yeah, I hear you, but
it's become a verb at this, in this.
Yeah, the Disney treatment. Yeah, but I liked that they showed character growth for Aladdin and Jasmine by the third film. I really liked that they kind of did a send off to Iago, because remember, Iago may have redeemed himself in Return of Jafar, but he was still very darkly inclined or very opportunistic. Like Iago is opportunistic evil. Like anything I can do to get what I want, and that's where him and Aladdin's father, the King of Thieves, what was he, Qasim? I think
I forget his name, dude.
Something like that.
Jeez, I haven't seen that movie in a while.
But yeah, but the King of Thieves, Iago and the King of Thieves, are both greedy and opportunistic, to the point of turning their back on friends and family, and that was kind of the recurring theme. They both had to be redeemed by the end of that in the trilogy, and then at the end of the day, they still went off on their own and left everybody behind, because they still are kind of that, They're still kind of that. Aladdin finally grew up and took responsibility. Jasmine communicated understanding and empathy and showed that she's not just a strong partner, but she's also, a fair partner, which is a very good lesson for them to show, and very cool. And we didn't really need the side characters developed as much, they were there for their bits, but even the Sultan showed growth in that third movie he showed that he's capable of wisdom.
Yeah, agree with that.
And so I like that the characters were more developed in the third movie.
Yeah, I like that one the most besides the first one, the third one. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
So.
I think the reason that we can kind of play devil's advocate on Jafar and Aladdin and even Jasmine and the Sultan in the early movies is because as entertaining and as fun and as beautiful as they were, they weren't developed characters. Iago is probably the most developed character and Iago and the genie are probably the two most developed characters in the first film.
You gotta keep watching the saga.
Yeah, but they didn't
You get
know they
more
were
out
going
of
to
it
do
with
a.
the sequels.
They didn't know they were going to do a saga at the time.
No, I know that, but I'm saying they at least made the best of it. Is what I'm saying.
Oh,
You know what
I
I
would.
mean?
I agree wholeheartedly, brother. But like, yeah. But I mean, don't you think that like the like Iago and the genie were like the only two developed characters in that first movie?
I mean, I would say the Sultan was also developed, but he was kind of an idiot from day one.
Yeah, I would say that
You
it's
know?
fair that they.
And the genie, no, the genie really wasn't. Never mind. Go ahead.
Well, I would say yeah, I agree with you on the Sultan because they painted like he's a shallow character, but they developed that he was a shallow character. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. As in depth as you're going to get about Aladdin, let us know in the comments if you agree. A lot to take in here, but it's interesting to go back and look at these films again from a grown-up eye and spot things that we didn't catch. And of course, check out Roberto. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts is, and I want to ask you about this. Do you think that they're going to develop the characters more, and that there's going to be like more nuance and depth to the characters in the upcoming movie? Since
The one that's already out now?
Yeah.
It came out today.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't care because I'm not going to watch them. I'm very anti live action Disney remakes because they're just, to me, even if they're good or bad, is irrelevant to me. I feel they're a waste of time, and I feel like they are just a cash grab, a cheap one at that, and I'm not a fan of them. So
You don't think they need to reintroduce the franchise to the next generation?
No, I'm all about keeping the classics the way they were, and they should have just re-released the movie because it's a classic film. I'm not a fan of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I like it because I think it's better than just doing sequels 30 years later, and I do like the I like sometimes that they take a different take on them, and that they like. I liked the Cinderella one, to be honest. Actually really did. And
I didn't even see it.
It's actually pretty good. And it actually is, again, I thought the story was more developed. But then again, before Disney did the remake of the Cinderella one, I liked the movie. Did you ever watch the movie Ever After?
Is that the Brandy one?
No.
Or Drew Barrymore?
Drew Barrymore, yes.
Yeah, I think I did see it because I remember there was a bunch of live action Cinderella movies. I remember that.
But I liked that one because, one, I liked that the characters were more realistic and more developed. I liked that they made it a period piece accurate to the time and said if there was a Cinderella, this is who she would actually be, and that the rest of stuff is just like made up nonsense. I liked.
Well, I remember the Brandy one being more like the Wiz.
Yes.
Or was it the African American?
And I liked that one.
Yeah.
That was fun for what it was, and I understood what it was. Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
like I'm okay with the live action stuff.
Ever since the 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close, I've hated it though. Like I don't even like that movie.
That one I wasn't as much of a. I did like Glenn Close's Cruella though. I liked the humor. I liked it. Like I liked how over the top that was, and it was just
She got beat up the whole movie. It seems.
I liked that because I liked Home Alone. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
I like that.
That was only a few years away from that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like for the kid in me that like liked Home Alone. Like to this day, I still binge watch it during the holidays. Then I like that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, just to round it out, I think that like, and it's up to everybody whether they love or hate these like live action remakes. I kind of enjoy them if they're executed. Either when I watch movies, I'm finding something to enjoy to justify the money I spent, so I don't go nuts. Which means that I love great storytelling, but I also love great actor portrayals, which means I can forgive a lot in a movie if I like a particular actor's performance. Or if the story is good, I can let a lot of other things go. Or
Absolutely.
if I'm enjoying the spectacle of what the film accomplished visually, because I'm super into that as like a VFX nerd and as a graphic designer. It's like, so there's things where it's like the spectacle of that might be like, I mean, there's plot holes in the movie Avatar that I could just like go hard into, but the spectacle of what Avatar was when it came out.
I don't think it holds up.
At the time, I'm saying when it came out.
Oh, yeah, when it came out.
That
was a huge thing.
It changed the industry. It set the bar. It changed the industry forever. And, like, I'll always be like, you know, I felt the same way about a lot of the Marvel movies. There's a lot I can nitpick over as a comic book nerd, but the spectacle of a lot of them, especially what we got in this last Avengers movie, I can forgive a lot. I can forgive a lot.
Oh no, the movie, there was plot holes in that movie and time travel shenanigans, but it was a quality finale. It was quality.
I'll take it for that last line, and you know which one I'm talking about.
Let's not even. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it because people complain, but
Yeah.
I know. Well, there's a few last lines, but
you know which one. You know my boy. You know.
All right, I won't say anything. But thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. Like always appreciate it and everything like that. This is one of the hardest working hardest working creators in our community, guys. Like, make sure you're showing them all the love and support.
I appreciate that. You didn't have to say that, but
it's the truth.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll get together again in the future and talk more nerd stuff and business stuff and everything. So,
yeah, absolutely, man.
Should be a good time. All right, thanks again, and we'll talk to y'all in the next one.